Okay, good evening, everyone. In a few minutes, we are about to begin for sheet metal creation in a Fusion 360. So, once more, sheet metal creation in a Fusion 360. It's another TGIF. So, once more, if you think this live stream is beneficial to someone you know, please invite them to join us. Sheet metal creation in Fusion 360 about to happen in a few minutes. Okay, and without further ado, let me add in our Taya, our instructor this evening. So let's say hi and good evening to Miss Nelsie Marciliana.
Hi everyone, good evening. And welcome back. This is our fifth series for Mastering Fusion 360. Okay. Okay, may I know who's our first timer here in using sheet metal in Fusion 360? You may reply or type in the chat box first timer, or you already tried, or you're already a user. So you can post in the chat box timer or first user. Okay, while we are waiting for your comments, kindly launch your Fusion 360 now and we'll begin. Okay, Shadab is a first timer and Daryl. Yeah. Okay, let's start. Everyone, welcome to Sheet Metal Creation in Fusion 360. Before we can create a sheet metal, we need to create the sketch first. Let's head over to Solid, selecting Create Sketch, left click. We are prompted to select a plane. Let's select our XZ plane, left click. We are now in the sketch mode. Head over to Create tab and select Line. Let's place our first point in our origin, left click. Moving it down. With the vertical inferred constraint active, I'm going to left click and click the checkmark button. Line is still active. Let's create another line here. Left click, left click, left click, left click, and double left click to exit line command. Our next intent is to create an arc. You can head over to Create tab, select Arc, and select 3-point arc. Let's place our first point here, left click, and left click. Zooming out, click Escape to exit out Arc command. Moving forward, let's add dimensions. Head over to Create tab and select Sketch Dimension, or you can press D on your keyboard. Pressing D, the shortcut key for dimension. Selecting this line and this line, left click, and key in 21. This line and the center point of our arc, left click, and key in 32. Selecting this arc, diameter to be 8. Zooming in. Dimension is still active. Let's select this line and this line. Key in 44. Let's hit escape. Head over to Constraints and select Tangent. Selecting this line and this arc. Let's now create our circle. head over to Create tab and select Center Diameter Circle. Let's place our circle here. Left click and key in 3. As I mentioned, this must be in diameter. Let's right click and select Toggle Diameter. Diameter must be 8. Let's double left click and key in 8 and hit enter. Our sketch is now in the shade of black, which means they are fully constrained. Let's now click Finish Sketch and head over to our home view. Let's now create our sheet metal. Head over to Sheet Metal tab. Under Create tab, select Flange. Selecting this sketch, left click. Operation to be new body, sheet metal rule to be still, and click OK. Let's now create an edge flange. Let's right click and select Repeat Flange. Selecting this edge, moving it up. To be exact, let's key in 10. And click OK. This edge needs to be 25 millimeters. In order to cut the material, we need to create a sketch. Holding Shift plus middle mouse button. Selecting this face, left click. Right click and select Create Sketch. I'd like to sketch on the top plane, left click. Head over to Create tab and select Rectangle. Selecting 2-point rectangle, left click. Placing it here, left click. Double left click. Let's project this one. Left click and double left click. Press D for dimension. Selecting this line and this line. Left click and key in 25. This edge and this line. Left click and key in 14. Let's hit Escape. Head over to Constraints and select Collinear. Selecting this line and this edge, and this line. Selecting this line and this edge. We still have a blue line. Let's select this line, left click, and select this line. Our sketch is now in the shade of black. We can now click Finish Sketch. Head over to Home View. Let's now create an extrude. Head over to Create tab and select Extrude. Selecting this profile and this profile. Selecting this and this. Distance to be 2 object. Selecting this face. Operation to be cut and click OK. Our next intent is to create another flange. Let's select this face, left click, right click, and select Create Sketch. Press L for line. Let's place our first point here, left click. And double left click. Press D for dimension. Selecting this line, left click, and key in 40. Selecting this line and this edge, left click, and key in 47. Let's now click Finish Sketch. Head over to Create tab and select Flange. Selecting this line and this edge. Leave all by default and click OK. Let's create another flange here. Selecting this face, left click, right click, and select Create Sketch. Press L for line. Placing our first point here, left click. Distance to be 16. And hit Enter. Let's now click Finish Sketch. Selecting Flange, left click. Selecting this line and this edge. Notice the preview and click OK. Let's now create a cut extrusion. Let's now select this face, left click, right click, and select Create Sketch. Press C for circle, locating the midpoint of this edge. Let's place the center point here, left click. Diameter to be 15 and hit Enter. Let's now click Finish Sketch. Press E for Extrude. Selecting this profile. Extent type to be 2 object. Selecting this face. Operation to be cut and click OK. Let's create slots. Selecting this face, left click, right click, and select Create Sketch. Zooming in. Press L for line. Let's place our first point here, left click, and double left click. Hitting Escape. This line will serve as a helper. Let's now turn it into a construction entity. Selecting this line and press X on your keyboard. Head over to Create and select Slot. Selecting Center Point Slot, left click. Let's locate the midpoint of this line. Left click. Moving it down, left click. And double left click. Press D for dimension. Selecting this line, left click, and key in 25. Selecting this arc, radius to be 2.5. Let's press L for line. Let's create a line here, left click, holding the left mouse button to create an arc, release, left click, and double left click. Press C for circle. Let's place a circle here, left click, diameter to be 5, and hit enter. Let's add constraints to these objects. Head over to constraints and select tangent. Selecting this arc and this line. Selecting concentric. Selecting this arc and this circle. Press D for dimension. The radius of this arc must be 5. The distance between the center point of our arc and this edge to be 10. Let's create a line. Press L for line. Locating the midpoint of this edge, left click and double left click on the center point of our circle. Hit escape. Let's turn this line into a construction entity. Left click, right click, and select construction. Selecting this line, right click, and select horizontal vertical. Our sketch is now in the shade of black. Let's now click finish sketch. Moving forward, let's cut our material here. Press E for extrude. Selecting this profile, left click. Extent type to be to object. Selecting this face. Operation to be cut and click OK. Let's turn on the visibility of our sketch 6. Selecting flange. Selecting this sketch, left click. Thickness to be side 2. And click OK. Looking nice. Let's turn off the visibility of sketch 6. Let's now head over to our bodies folder. Notice that we have two bodies, body 1 and body 2. Let's press S for design shortcuts, typing COM, selecting combine, selecting our body 1 and body 2. Operation to be join and click OK. We now have one body. Let's now finish this by adding fillets. Press F for fillet. selecting the edges, selecting this, 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 and this. Let's specify the radius, key in 2, and click OK. Head over to Home View. Congratulations for completing your first sheet metal in Fusion 360. Okay, if you have questions in this exercise, please let me know. We'll be sharing the 2D sketch later. Okay, no question. All right, let's proceed to exercise number 2. Let's click New Design. Head over to Create tab, selecting Create Sketch, left click. We are prompted to select a plane. Let's select our XZ plane, left click. Press R, the shortcut key for rectangle. Let's change this to center rectangle. Left click, placing the center point here in our origin. Left click. Notice the dimension field. Let's key in 100. Hitting tab. And key in 50. And hit enter. Let's press C for circle. Placing our circle here, left click. Diameter to be 9. Let's create another circle with a diameter of 5. Press D for dimension. Selecting our origin, left click, and the center point of our circle. Left click and key in 12.5. Our sketch is now in the shade of black, which means they are fully defined. Let's now click Finish Sketch. Head over to our home view. Our next intent is to create a sketch on the XY plane. Head over to Create and select Create Sketch. Selecting our XY plane, left click. Press L for line. Placing the first point here, left click. Length of this line to be 60. With the horizontal inferred constraint active, let's hit enter. Right click, selecting repeat line, placing our first point here, left click, and double left click. Press D for dimension, selecting this line and our origin, and key in 30. Let's hit escape, inspecting, head over to constraints, selecting horizontal vertical, selecting the endpoint of this line and our origin. My next intent is to make both sides symmetrical. To do that, I need to create a construction line. Press L, placing my first point here, left click, and double left click. Hit escape, selecting this line, and press X for construction. Let's break this line. Press S for sketch shortcuts, typing BRE, selecting break, selecting this X. Notice that constraints or dimensions were removed during operation. Let's now head over to constraints and select symmetry. Selecting this endpoint and this endpoint and this line. Let's now press D for dimension, selecting our origin and the endpoint of this line, left click, and key in 42. Let's hit escape, head over to constraints and select coincident. Selecting the endpoint of this line, left click, and this point. Inspecting. Let's now click Finish Sketch and head over to our home view. Our next intent is to create a flange. Head over to Sheetmetal tab, selecting Flange, selecting this line, left click, moving this arrow. To be exact, let's key in -25 and hit enter. Let's right-click, selecting repeat flange, selecting this sketch, left-click. Notice the preview and click OK. Moving forward, let's create a cut extrusion. Head over to Sketch and turn on the visibility of Sketch 1. Press E for Extrude. Selecting this profile, left-click. Extend type to be to object. Selecting this face and click OK. We can now turn off the visibility of Sketch 1. To those who are new to Fusion 360, always remember that you can go back and edit your sketch or your features. To do that, let's head over to our timeline, selecting our sketch 2, left-click, right-click, and select Edit Sketch. Selecting this line, I want to make it a construction line. Let's press X on our keyboard, or you can head to our sketch palette, selecting line type and select construction. Click Finish Sketch. Let's now edit our feature. Selecting our contour flange 1, left click, right click, and select Edit Feature. Let's now select Remove Selection. Reselecting this sketch and click OK. Notice the changes? Let's now mirror our bodies. Press S for design shortcuts, typing MIR, selecting mirror. For the objects, let's do a window selection. For the mirror plane, let's select our XY plane, left click, and click OK. Let's repeat mirror. Right click, selecting repeat mirror. For the objects, let's do a window selection. For the mirror plane, selecting our YZ plane. Left click and click OK. Notice that we now have 8 bodies. Let's press S once more, typing COM, selecting combine. For the target body, selecting this. Operation to be joined and click OK. Our next intent is to cut our material here. Let's head over to Modify, selecting Unfold, selecting this entity. Let's tick Unfold all bends and click OK. Selecting this face, left click, right click, and select Create Sketch. Press R for rectangle, placing our first point here, left click, and double left click. Press D for dimension, selecting this line and this line, left click, and key in 10. Selecting this line and this edge to be 10, this edge and this line to be 10. Let's hit escape. Let's head over to constraints and select horizontal vertical. Selecting our origin, left click, locating the midpoint of this line, press Shift and left click. Our next intent is to mirror this rectangle. Press L for line. Let's place a line here, left click and left click. This line will serve as a helper. Let's now turn it into a construction entity. But first, let's now hit escape. Selecting this line and press X on your keyboard. Let's now press S for sketch shortcuts, typing MIR, selecting mirror, selecting this line, this line, this line, and this line. For the mirror line, selecting this construction line, left click. Notice the preview and click OK. Let's now click Finish Sketch and head over to our home view. Press E for extrude, selecting this profile, this profile, this profile, this, and this. For the extent type, selecting to object. For the object, selecting this face. Leave all by default and click OK. Let's now refold faces. To finally finish our sketch, let's add fillet. Press F for fillet, selecting the edges. Radius to be 2 and click OK. Great job for completing your second sheet metal in Fusion 360. Okay, do you have questions in exercise number 2? Please let me know. Okay, questions. Okay, how can you create a flat pattern in sheet metal? Okay, so we'll use this model. Let's head over to create, selecting create flat pattern and selecting this face and click OK. Okay, so I already did a flat pattern. So I'll click OK. So there, you have your flat pattern. Okay. I'm going to click Finish Flat Pattern. I cannot register where. It's not accepting my mobile number. You can just input 09 and then 10 and 10 nines. You can input 10 nines. Okay, so no questions. Okay, to those who are not yet in Fusion 360 lady users worldwide, inviting all ladies out there to join us in Fusion 360 lady users in Facebook. That's our Facebook group. We also have Fusion 360 worldwide users. It's for everyone. And then join us in meetup.com/Autodesk Community Philippines. Okay, to claim your certificate of event participation, kindly send us a message in meetup.com. So please message your full name, your school name, and the title of the workshop today. Okay, so you'll send there your, for example, Nelsie Marceliana, Autodesk Community Philippines, sheet metal creation in Fusion 360. Okay, send us a message to claim your certificate of event participation. And then Once you message will reply to you your course ID. Please don't share your course ID to anyone. Okay, what will you do to the course ID? You need to create an account or log in at education.autodesk.com. Okay, you will log in as a student or training participant. So log in your credentials and use the course ID that we gave. Okay? Take note that after 7 days, the course ID will expire. So once you get yours tonight, please do take the time to claim your certificate. The claiming of certificate it is just around 2 minutes. Okay, you'll just input the course ID and click enroll. For the event participation, you don't need to answer the survey. Once you click enroll, please wait for a few minutes and it will be, Autodesk will email you for your certificate. Okay? So please take note that the course ID, all our course ID is valid for 7 days only. Okay, so once we forward it to you, please do take the time to claim your certificate. Okay? Send us a message in meetup.com. Okay, our next event is on August 27. That is a sheet metal creation in Inventor. If you're interested to join, please do register. The download link for Inventor is here in the event description. So please do check the event details. And on August 29, we have remote collaboration with Revit using BIM Collaborate Pro. If you're interested, you can register. All details are in the meetup. Okay, visit meetup.com/Autodesk Community Philippines, and you can, under event tab, you can click and check our upcoming events. And also you can please do visit youtube.com/Autodesk Community Philippines. All our upcoming live streams are posted in our channel. Okay? If you have future questions, please do leave us a message in meetup.com and we'll respond to you. Okay. Okay, thanks everyone for joining. And we'll see you on August 27. That is Friday at 7 p.m. here in Autodesk Community Philippines. Okay, have a wonderful evening. Have a wonderful morning or afternoon to everyone. And we'll see you on the 27th. Keep safe and healthy, everyone.